Caitlin Clark buried a three from the logo just minutes into the first quarter, and you could almost feel the fuse light. But the biggest explosion, that came later in a moment so wild, so raw, the cameras couldn't look away. After a missed shot and a fight for a rebound, Clark and Reese tangled in a way that had the entire arena on its feet. The result? A flagrant foul, a viral highlight.
The on-court ruling of a personal foul on Caitlin Clark has been upgraded to a flagrant foul penalty 1.
And a question that fans are still debating. Did Angel Reese cross the line? And here's the twist. Meanwhile, Reese was clearly frustrated. Her body language shifted. She missed close-range shots. She argued with refs.
Banham flicks it ahead. Reese goes in.
And with every Clark basket, the gap on the scoreboard widened. But it wasn't just about the points, it was about control. Clark had it, Reese lost it, and by the fourth quarter, the Sky were in free fall. Chicago's defense broke down. Indiana kept feeding Clark, and she kept delivering. A hesitation dribble, step back three.
4 seconds left. Clark fires. You bet!
Splash. No celebration, just cold confidence. But that was only the beginning. Moments later, Angel Reese came crashing through the lane. Elbows out, shoulders lowered. She bullied her way to the rim and sent a message with a tough layup in traffic.
Clark excelled a season ago.
Angel Reese dives in and finishes through the contact.
The arena shifted. You could feel it. This was more than a game. This was personal. But Clark responded like she always does, with a three from way beyond the arc. Splash. Net didn't even move, and the stare she gave after? Ruthless. That shot didn't just tie the game, it flipped the momentum and it set a tone. Therefore, this battle became less about team strategies and more about who could outshine the other. Kelsey Mitchell joined the firefight, scoring on tough jumpers.
Here's Mitchell, will fire, and hit from three.
But everything and everyone seemed to orbit around Clark and Reese. Every time Clark hit a jumper, Reese muscled her way to the rim. Every time Reese scored in the paint, Clark pulled up from the perimeter and drilled another dagger.
So many different places on the floor. Clark, little mid-range, is good.
So here's the question, did Caitlin Clark just take the crown? Or is Angel Reese about to come back stronger than ever?
The Caitlin Clark push-off situation is something that we have to talk about, because everyone is going mad about it.
New footage just dropped, and what it shows will shock you. Caitlin Clark, the face of women's basketball, was double-grabbed, hip-checked, and hacked in a single play.
Just another year and another case of WNBA referees not making the right calls when it comes to Caitlin Clark.
This wasn't some overreaction. It was retaliation. Clark stood up for her teammate the only way she knows how, with grit, fire, and zero hesitation. Therefore, the refs hit Reese with a flagrant one. The internet divided. Some said Clark flopped. Others praised her intensity, but no one could deny the electricity that moment brought. And through all of this chaos, Clark kept playing her game. She hit another deep three.
Here's Clark firing and hitting.
She dished out assist after assist. She ran the offense with poise most rookies can only dream of. So now the league has a choice: protect its rising star, or let the targeting continue until the damage is irreversible.
She is highly likable. I think that lends itself to her popularity as she comes across as somebody that's really just respectful, likable. There's other players out there that just don't come across that way.
This goes beyond one missed call. This is a league-wide issue, because if the WNBA can't protect its biggest draw, its most marketable name, what message does that send? But something snapped in the second half. A rebound bounced high off the rim. Both Clark and Reese went for it. Arms tangled, hands fought, and then it happened. Clark ripped at the ball with pure aggression. Reese held tight. The two locked eyes. Neither backed down, and the arena exploded. Replay showed it clearly. Reese shoved Clark's teammate before the scrum, and Clark saw it. That's what lit the fire.
That Angel took exception to. So initially, Angel pushes Natasha Howard. Caitlin Clark points out the no call. Then she applies a hard foul on Reese. Reese gets up right away to get in the face of Clark.
That moment wasn't about ego or attitude. It was about loyalty. Clark saw her teammate get hit. She saw no whistle, and she acted. Therefore, what looked like a petty fight was actually something much deeper. It was Clark doing what leaders do, protecting her team and sending a message: we're not backing down. And this is where the narrative shifts. For months, critics have questioned whether Caitlin Clark could survive in the WNBA. Too flashy, too soft, too hyped. But this game, this blowout, flipped all of that on its head. Not only did Clark dominate statistically, she showed toughness, leadership, and fire. Every time she takes a bump, it's dismissed as soft. When she draws contact, it's ignored. When she creates space, it's vilified. It's a lose-lose, and fans are catching on. Therefore, the question becomes, who benefits from this? Who gains when the league's biggest name is forced to play under a different rulebook? Maybe it's the rivals hoping to knock her off her pedestal. Maybe it's the critics waiting for her to stumble. Or maybe it's a system too slow to evolve, clinging to outdated ideas about how stars should act and who gets to be one.
There's a lot bigger problems with the referees than a player who gets hacked 94 feet most games pushing off. That's all I'm going to say.
And while Clark keeps playing through it with poise and professionalism, others are watching closely. Other rookies, other stars, kids at home dreaming about playing in this league someday. Because if the WNBA allows this to keep happening to its brightest light, how can it expect to attract the next generation of talent? And what about the Indiana Fever? They've rebuilt everything around Clark. Their offense, their brand, their future. She's not just the engine, she's the spark that makes the whole machine run. Crowd goes wild, and with just over a minute to play, Clark launched another bomb from deep.
Here's Clark firing. Hey!
Back-to-back threes that silenced the haters and sealed the win. Therefore, this wasn't just a win, it was a statement. Caitlin Clark didn't just beat Angel Reese, she exposed her. The difference in composure, skill, and leadership was undeniable. And just when it seemed like the rivalry had reached its peak, something else happened. With the final buzzer echoing through the arena, the scoreboard told one story: Indiana Fever 93, Chicago Sky 58. But the real story? That was playing out off the court. Because while Caitlin Clark walked off the floor with a triple-double and the spotlight firmly on her, Angel Reese was left staring into space, frustrated, furious, and maybe, just maybe, outmatched.
I'm not sure what the refs saw to upgrade it, and that's up to their discretion after watching the initial whatever happened.
This wasn't just a game. This was a statement, a battle, a brawl in sneakers. Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese, the moment the entire WNBA had circled in red. And what happened next will shock you, because Caitlin Clark didn't just win, she dominated, she humiliated, and just when the dust seemed to settle, a flagrant foul, a heated standoff, and a stare down at half court sent the entire league into chaos. Therefore, if you think this was just another regular season matchup, think again. What happened between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese might change the WNBA forever, not just because of the final score, but because of what it revealed about two of the league's biggest stars. And by the end of this story, you'll understand exactly why this feud is about more than basketball. It's about legacy, power, and who gets to own the spotlight in the new era of the WNBA. From the very first possession, this wasn't basketball, this was war. And the first shot fired, it came from Caitlin Clark. With the Sky up early, Clark was fouled on a hard drive to the rim.
Here's Clark working through some contact. Clark diving in, gets the whistle.
She didn't flinch, just stepped to the line, nailed both free throws, and stared down the Chicago bench. Because the moment this play went viral, fans didn't rush to defend her. They didn't call for fair officiating or demand player safety. They attacked her. They said she pushed off, that she flopped, that she should get used to the W.
Body back. Now watch this. Now this is it right here.
Pow Pow is on her. Pow Pow grabs her hip. You see here. So Caitlin's trying to blow by Tina Pow Pow. Tina Pow Pow is not a good enough defender to play flat like this. Two hands on Caitlin Clark's jersey. Then she goes around the hip.
But let's rewind. This was supposed to be a celebration of women's basketball, a marquee matchup between the league's two most polarizing rookies. One is the golden girl of the WNBA, the face of the Fever, the player ESPN cannot stop talking about. The other, a self-proclaimed queen of the paint, ready to shut Clark down by any means necessary. Yet what we got was something far more intense than anyone expected. From the opening tip, the tension was obvious. The crowd knew it. The broadcasters felt it. Every possession had a little extra push, a little extra shove.
That Angel took exception to. So initially, Angel pushes Natasha Howard. Caitlin Clark points out the no call. Then she applies a hard foul on Reese. Reese gets up right away to get in the face of Clark.
This wasn't some overreaction. It was retaliation. Clark stood up for her teammate the only way she knows how, with grit, fire, and zero hesitation. Therefore, the refs hit Reese with a flagrant one, because here's the uncomfortable truth. Every great player uses a forearm to create space. Every elite guard sheds defenders with a little shoulder bump. When anyone else does it, it's called veteran craft.
The WNBA referees are terrible. The one-sided calls against Caitlin are so obvious and disgusting, they're ruining the game. If the referees do not get this whole situation together with this Caitlin Clark thing, fans is finna stop watching this sport.
When Clark does it, it's flagged as dirty. Therefore, it's not just about officiating, it's about bias. Clark is the most watched, most followed, most talked about player in the WNBA, and that attention has brought jealousy, resentment, maybe even retaliation. What happened next will change how you see the entire league.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Clark, guard for the Indiana Fever.
Gets bumped, will take, and hit from 3.
The moment the clip hit the internet, it was impossible to ignore. Caitlin Clark, in just her second preseason game of 2025, was swarmed by the Atlanta Dream defense. But this wasn't your average hard-nosed basketball. This was something different. As Clark dribbled to the wing, defender Tahina Pau didn't just get into a defensive stance. She grabbed with both hands, one clutching the side of Clark's jersey, the other yanking at her hip.
How easily it looks like she's shooting those threes and hitting those threes in the clip that she's doing it, going to the rack, all these various things that show she's even stronger than she was a year ago. And you see it in the strong numbers. 13 points, 6 boards, 7 assists in 23 minutes of action.
That's not struggling. That's thriving under pressure. Yet the spotlight wasn't on her stats. It was on the controversy. And that's when the conspiracy theories started. Fans online began questioning whether Clark was being intentionally targeted, not just by defenders, but by refs, by narratives, by the league itself. Caitlin Clark isn't just another player. She's the one selling out arenas, the one breaking preseason viewership records, the one dragging a struggling franchise into the national spotlight. And yet, she's getting hacked, grabbed, and shoved without consequence.
She's the only player in the league that gets picked up three-quarter court by everybody. And people are saying it's because of a lack of skill she gets picked up three-quarter court. Absolute madness. Absolute madness. But it's just a crazy situation. And like we all saw, Caitlin did not shoot a free throw. Caitlin got fouled one time against Brazil. And Brazil were hacking her. Like Brazil were literally just going and hacking Caitlin. Every time Caitlin did anything, they were just fouling her because they knew they couldn't do anything else, so they hacked her.
She averaged 14.5 points, 6 assists, 6 rebounds. She shot 52.5% from the field and 50% from three-point range.
So what comes next? Will the officials finally step up? Will the league send a message that physicality has limits, even in the W? Or will they keep letting her get mauled on national television while pretending it's all part of the game? That's the cliff we're standing on, because fans aren't just watching the plays anymore, they're watching the patterns. And if something doesn't change soon, the WNBA might find out what happens when the biggest name in the game starts asking, why am I being treated like this? But whatever the reason, the WNBA is playing with fire, because Caitlin Clark isn't going anywhere. She's only getting better, stronger, sharper, and if the league doesn't evolve with her, it's going to get left behind.
The So in 2024, she averaged 16.5 points per game, 4 assists, 5.5 rebounds. She shot 37% from the field and 31.8% from 3. Now, if you look at her preseason in 2025, she only played 2 games in this preseason, and one was against that Brazilian national team. She played 21 minutes.
It looked more like a bear hug than a basketball play, and yet, no whistle.
Caitlin Clark's statue, in order for them to gain separation, they kind of stick their forearm out there because they're getting bear hugged. The other defensive player won't let them cut across to the lane.
Clark tried to fight through it, pulled up for a deep 3, and drilled it. But the damage was done, not to the scoreboard, to the narrative.
Not an offensive foul, and if it's an offensive foul, the offensive foul comes way after the defensive foul. Even if it wasn't for the hand, I don't think that that's enough of a push-off to call an offensive foul, especially when the defensive player is off balance.
And the refs, they let it happen. But that's not the worst part.
The WNBA is physical, and she just needs to get over it. Let's watch the play here.
To reset things.
As you can see, she dribbles over to the wing, pushes off a little bit, and hits that 3. Now, if you slow things down and if you actually go frame by frame, you can see that Pow Pow had 2 hands on Caitlin. It wasn't just a one-hand hand check. She was kind of grabbing her with 2 hands.
Instead of calling out the defenders for physical fouls, the internet turned against Caitlin, accusing her of pushing off, flopping, and needing to toughen up.
She's going up against Pow Pow, and she does a step back 3, she hits it, but the internet is going wild for this because they are complaining about her pushing off with her left arm.
And like the referees, Caitlin has been on the receiving end of 1 foul. I'd say she's probably committed 2 offensive fouls, but she has also been on the receiving end of about 8 or 9 defensive fouls over these 2 games. 1 whistle was blown. 1 whistle was blown.
In her first 2 games of the 2025 preseason, she was fouled constantly. But how many times did she draw a whistle? Once. That's not just bad officiating, that's exposure. The cameras don't lie. Fans see what's happening. And now they're asking why no one in charge is stepping in. The moment went viral. Cameras caught Reese refusing to shake hands. Clark, calm and collected, walked back to the bench, barely reacting. Reporters asked about the flagrant foul. Reese brushed it off.
Just what you saw in that play, how you interpreted what happened.
Basketball play,
Clark didn't take the bait.
You got the flagrant, Aaliyah, you got a technical. What could have happened there?
If he got the tech? I know. Wait, what? I got the tech?
Oh, no! I know.
But here's the real twist. It's not just refs letting her down. It's the narrative around her that's making things worse.
Caitlin Clark haters things are so funny. It's like, oh, the only reason Caitlin Clark shoots from 30 feet is because she knows if she tried to shoot from anywhere closer, she'd be found out for a lack of skill. And I'm like, are you okay? Oh, are you okay in the head? And I saw this conversation going on. People were like, being like, yeah, you're right. And I'm like, you just said she chooses to shoot from 30 feet because of a lack of skill. And teams guard her 3/4 court. She's the only player in the league that gets picked up 3/4 court by everybody.
Every time she fights through a grab, it's called dirty.